Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the English Daily Book Summary YouTube channel. In order to not stop learning, listen to an English book summary every day for free.
Beverly Clack. How to be a failure and still live well. A philosophy. In Elizabeth Kostover's novel The Historian, a young scholar stumbles upon a strange ancient book left anonymously on his desk. Puzzled, he seeks out his professor, who responds by pulling out a similar book from the top shelf of his study. That book, the professor reveals, is where he keeps his failures, the projects he'd rather forget but can never quite escape. It's a vivid metaphor for how many of us deal with our own setbacks. We push them aside, hidden but ever present, shaping our sense of self even as we try to ignore them. Loss, like failure, is something we'd rather avoid, yet it remains an inevitable part of life. It reminds us of the impermanence of our existence and the limits of our control. Whether it's the end of a relationship, the passing of a loved one, or the gradual effects of aging, loss challenges our belief that life is entirely within our grasp. But by confronting it instead of resisting, we can discover new ways to appreciate the fleeting, fragile beauty of our connections and experiences. In this blink, you'll learn how society's obsession with work, success, and control often leads to a shallow definition of fulfillment. By examining failure and loss, you'll discover the possibility of living more meaningfully. This perspective will shift your focus from chasing material success to valuing relationships, creativity, and community. You'll also find inspiration to rethink what it means to live well, even in the face of life's inevitable challenges. Breaking free from work-centered definitions of success. On a routine commute between Oxford and London, the author Beverly Clack once spotted a striking piece of graffiti. Written on a farmer's fence in bold 3-meter-high letters were the words, "Why do I do this every day?" For Clack, it encapsulated the frustrations of modern work and life, the relentless grind, the societal expectations, and the deeper, often unasked questions about meaning and fulfillment, and what it truly means to live well. The question invites us to think about why so much of modern life is dominated by work. Is work really the path to a meaningful, fulfilled life, or is it just what society expects of us? Neoliberalism promotes the idea that we're primarily economic units, with success measured by productivity, wealth, and personal responsibility. While this perspective might seem empowering, it often leads to stress, blurs the boundaries between work and personal life, and leaves many feeling trapped. The intrusion of work into personal time is reinforced by technology that keeps us constantly connected. Rising job insecurity and low wages only increase this strain, contributing to widespread stress, anxiety, and burnout. At the same time, society's obsession with material success, possessing the ideal home, achieving the desired career, and accruing wealth can feel hollow, especially when failure is framed as a personal flaw rather than a result of structural inequalities. Despite these pervasive pressures, there are ways to rethink fulfillment. The political theorist Hannah Arendt suggests that meaningful lives emerge from actions and connections that go beyond work. These include activities like conversations, creative projects, or community engagement, things that foster enduring relationships and purpose. Philosophers like Matthew Crawford and Richard Sennett also recommend focusing on craftsmanship and attentiveness. Whether it's carefully repairing something or honing a craft purely for the joy of it, these practices shift your focus from achievement to the satisfaction of the process itself. Instead of pursuing an unrelenting quest for success, you might find more meaning by embracing your interconnectedness with others and the world. Sometimes, stepping back and asking, "Why?" is the first step toward a better way of living. Redefining failure, fear, and loss for women. The question of whether or not to have children can trigger a flood of emotions, especially when motherhood is a sensitive, unfulfilled hope. For some, it's not just a casual question. It serves as a painful reminder of what's missing. Even worse, it can seem to encapsulate society's ideas of what it means to be a real woman. Comments implying that being a mother completes a woman don't help. They reinforce the idea that failing to have children means failing as a woman. When you look closer, these pressures reveal something deeper, a societal anxiety about control, mortality, and unpredictability. Historically, society has placed the weight of these fears on women's bodies, which have come to symbolize things people can't control, like aging, decay, and death. Society's fixation on beauty makes aging particularly difficult for women. The aging female body is frequently viewed with disgust, and companies capitalize on this vulnerability by promoting products and procedures that promise to slow or reverse the effects of time. Of course, no one can stop the process of aging. Despite this, for women, aging is often unfairly framed as a personal failing rather than an inevitable process. But these pressures point to a larger truth. Loss is a fundamental part of life, and resisting it can create a false sense of failure. Aging, childlessness, or other unmet expectations are often framed as shortcomings, but they're simply part of the human experience. While loss can feel overwhelming, it also holds the potential to inspire a new understanding of what gives life meaning. By looking beyond societal ideals like youth and perfection, it's possible to focus instead on connections, kindness, and the relationships that enrich life. Focusing on what's meaningful can shift perspectives from fear of what's uncontrollable to a deeper appreciation for life's natural transience. Accepting life's impermanence allows for a way of living that values connection and embraces the beauty found in imperfection and change. This approach offers a more lasting sense of fulfillment. Life's losses and the illusion of controlling death. Have you ever considered how much control you really have over your life and your death? Reflecting on loss, illness, and mortality can reveal truths about human fragility and connection, often hidden by society's focus on success and independence. Grief and death aren't shortcomings, even though they're often treated that way. Modern ideals, especially in cultures that prioritize achievement and control, frame mortality as something to conquer. Advances in medical science have encouraged an unrealistic belief that death can be delayed forever, turning the sick and dying into symbols of irresponsibility or inadequacy. This mindset marginalizes those who can't meet these impossible standards, such as the chronically ill, the elderly, or the poor. Philosophers and religious thinkers have grappled with these questions for centuries. While Epicureanism and Buddhism frame death as a natural event that encourages humility, Christian theology, especially Augustine, presents it as unnatural, a punishment for human failure. These contrasting views still resonate, shaping how death is understood today. But illness and death reveal something much deeper. They show how interconnected and dependent we are on one another, countering the myth of self-sufficiency. For example, Philip Gould, facing terminal cancer, initially treated his diagnosis as a battle to win, but later found solace in focusing on relationships and acceptance. Similarly, Kate Gross, a young professional and mother who was also a cancer patient, rejected the illusion of control, finding comfort in love and the small joys of everyday life. Grief, too, is a profound teacher. It forces you to confront life's fragility and the unpredictability of human bonds. Painful as it is, grief highlights what matters most: the enduring connections we share with others. Attempts to dominate or deny these realities, through extreme medical interventions, wealth-fueled solutions like cryonics, or the pursuit of a good death, often deepen suffering rather than ease it. The advice here is simple. Stop chasing control and focus on what truly matters. Prioritize love, relationships, and the shared vulnerability that binds us all. Mortality isn't a failure. It's a reminder to shift your attention from independence to interdependence. Accepting this is no small task, but it's what makes life and death fully human. Balancing metrics with human creativity. Imagine working in an environment where every action is measured, every outcome quantified, and your worth as an employee depends on hitting numerical targets. The implications of such a system extend far beyond the office walls, infiltrating personal identity and professional growth, stifling creativity and spontaneity. In such systems, bureaucracy and metrics dominate, and there's little room for personal judgment. Instead of embracing human imperfections and the richness they bring to our experiences, these systems strip them away. Take, for instance, an academic trapped by publication quotas and citation indexes. Not only does this pressure affect their work output, it also deeply impacts their sense of self and professional value. This overemphasis on metrics leads to a dehumanizing workplace where individuals feel more like cogs in a machine than like creative and spontaneous beings. The fear of failure looms large, not as a natural part of learning and growth, but as a threat to your career stability and progression. It's important to ask yourself whether you're working in an environment that respects your human qualities, or are you being pushed into a mold that values output over everything else? What's the advice? Look for alternatives that respect and incorporate human fallibility. Opt for systems that allow for unpredictability and embrace it as a source of creativity and innovation. Rather than penalizing failure, such environments view it as a catalyst for growth and learning. So, how can you adapt to an overly controlled work setting? Start by recognizing the limitations of the environment. Maintain your spontaneity and creativity even when the system seems stacked against these qualities. Advocate for more balanced measures of success that value quality and innovation over mere numbers. Remember, transforming a deeply ingrained system might not be solely in your hands, but small steps toward valuing human elements can pave the way for broader changes. By promoting an understanding of these challenges, you can help create an environment that not only meets targets, but also nurtures well-rounded, fulfilled individuals. So next time you're evaluated, consider not just the numbers, but the broader impact of your work on both your professional environment and your personal well-being. Redefining success through relationships and community. Do you ever feel that achieving economic success isn't as fulfilling as you expected? This could be because society often measures success primarily in economic terms, defining us as Homo economicus, beings focused entirely on self-interest and monetary benefits. But what if our true fulfillment comes from something deeper? What if we are actually Homo religiosus, a term drawing from theological and philosophical roots that suggests that our fulfillment stems from our relationships and spiritual connections, not just our financial status? This redefinition prompts us to examine how personal crises and wider social challenges can shift our focus toward more meaningful community engagement. For instance, when political and economic policies threaten the welfare of our communities, diving deeper into communal activities can redefine what success and failure mean to us on a profound level. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche and Julia Kristeva provide further depth to this discussion. Nietzsche challenges the superficial pursuit of success, advocating for a more profound existential satisfaction that surpasses mere economic achievements. Kristeva adds that our identities and well-being are intricately tied to our relationships, emphasizing that true fulfillment arises from our interconnectedness and the shared human experience of vulnerability. When reassessing what fulfillment means to you, think about how your efforts contribute not just to personal gain, but also to the welfare of others. Engaging more deeply with your community can enrich your life, offering a sense of connection and purpose that surpasses the rewards of economic success alone. Ask yourself, am I merely surviving as Homo economicus, or truly thriving as Homo religiosus, nurturing meaningful relationships and a strong community bond? We can always redefine what it means to live well, embracing a life that balances economic needs with the richness of deep human connections. Embracing failure and loss to live meaningfully. Imagine driving through Death Valley. You feel an overwhelming sense of stillness and indifference in the desert. Looking out at the vast expanse, you realize that the land is completely unconcerned with you, your worries, or your achievements. This unsettling yet liberating realization about insignificance can create space for a rethinking of how you approach loss and failure. You're bound to face losses and setbacks in life. They're part of being human. But instead of seeing them as obstacles or reasons to despair, you can treat these moments as opportunities to reflect on what really matters. Success often keeps you on the surface of things, but failure and loss force you to dig deeper, uncovering truths about yourself and your connection to the world. The idea that suffering is universal might offer you some small comfort. Everyone experiences pain and vulnerability at some point, even if it's not distributed evenly. By recognizing this shared fragility, you can find solidarity with others and shift your focus toward building better relationships and supporting those who are struggling. There's also power in pausing. When you're in the middle of a loss or failure, it can feel tempting to rush forward and escape the discomfort. But if you give yourself time to sit with the experience, you might find new perspectives emerging. Silence can help with this. In today's noisy, fast-paced world, allowing yourself quiet moments to reflect can open the door to insights you wouldn't otherwise notice. Sometimes reconnecting with nature or the everyday world can help you process loss and failure. Walking, for example, isn't just a way to clear your head. It can ground you in your surroundings, helping you feel part of something larger. Even simple things like watching the sunset or listening to birdsong can remind you that life goes on, with or without your plans going perfectly. In the end, failure and loss don't have to define you. They can teach you to step back from society's shallow benchmarks for achievement, like wealth or status, and instead guide you toward a richer, more fulfilling sense of connection with others and with the world itself. In this Blink to How to Be a Failure and Still Live Well, by Beverly Clack, you've learned that redefining failure and success is key to living a meaningful life. Modern society often equates success with productivity, wealth and personal achievement, leaving little room for vulnerability and human complexity. This narrow view creates stress, burnout, and a sense of inadequacy when expectations aren't met. Embracing failure and loss as inevitable parts of life allows for a deeper appreciation of what truly matters. Fulfillment comes from nurturing relationships and acknowledging your interconnectedness with others and the world. This perspective shifts the focus from individual achievement to a broader sense of purpose rooted in community, compassion, and shared experiences. You've also seen how societal pressures, particularly on women, magnify feelings of inadequacy by linking worth to unattainable ideals like beauty, youth, and motherhood. Accepting the natural cycles of growth and decay offers a more compassionate understanding of self-worth and success. Ultimately, living well means stepping away from the relentless pursuit of perfection and embracing life's unpredictability. Failure isn't a flaw, but a valuable part of the human experience, teaching us resilience and helping us find deeper connection and meaning. That's it for this Blink. We hope you enjoyed it. If you can, please take the time to leave us a rating. We always appreciate your feedback. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next Blink.